Before I get started today, I want everybody to please like and comment. Any little bit of feedback or support would be greatly appreciated. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
He's sick, for fuck's sake. You've seen one too many movies.
Nah, Sid! Don't you blame the movies!
Now that that's out of the way, I want to get into my top 5 favorite horror slashers. Again, it's sad that I have to say this, but this is just my opinion. They're my personal favorites. It's not necessarily going to line up with your list. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I've said many times that I wasn't a fan of the Nightmare series growing up. Honestly, it was just off my radar and it wasn't something that I was brought up on, but I've been trying to rectify that lately. Proof of that is my recent review of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Go check it out if you haven't already. The reality of the situation is whether or not I have a strong connection with the series or not, Freddy is a part of the unholy trilogy of slashers, and he needs to be on most people's lists, and there's just no getting around that. But I'm not putting him on there just because I honestly feel like he deserves to be a part of this list. I've gained so much appreciation for Freddy recently simply because he's just unique. He can do things that other slashers can't do. He has a comedic element to him that works as long as they don't take it too far. He's got an iconic look that sets him apart from all other slashers. And of course, his murder weapon of choice is the glove with the blades on it. Very iconic and very recognizable. I also like the fact that Freddy's version of stalking his victims serves a second purpose for him. It's not stalking just for the sake of stalking. He's trying to instill fear in them because their fear makes him stronger. So stalking them in their nightmares ultimately leads to him becoming strong enough to kill them. That's a major thing that Freddy has over all other slashers. He literally exists in a world where he consistently has the upper hand. And it allows Freddy to have the most creative kills because it's in a dream world, so all the rules can be broken. Overall, Freddy is more than deserving of my number 5 spot. When we're first introduced to Leatherface, he's much more of a force of nature than he is the main antagonist of the series. And what I mean by that is I think as the series went on, it slowly shifted focus and made Leatherface the focal point. But initially, he was just part of this fucked up inbred backwoods family. Leatherface was of course inspired by Ed Gein, the real-life serial killer. So in real life, someone actually wore masks made out of human skin. For Leatherface, if the skin mask wasn't enough, he often eats his victims as well, along with his inbred family. There's also something to be said, I think, about the murder weapon of choice being a chainsaw. There's nothing subtle about Leatherface's approach, and he's not trying to be. I don't see him in the same manner I see the other slashers in the sense that he doesn't really stalk his victims. It's more of a pounce and attack kind of mentality. And initially, Leatherface is more of a reactionary character. Like he's reacting this way because he feels threatened. I mean, he's mentally challenged and even deformed in some versions of the character. So he's simultaneously at times used as a pawn in the family's games, but he's also very dangerous in his own right when he goes off script. I've always been intrigued by Leatherface, everything from the look to the mythology. I just think he's a scary character.
I'm feeling woozy here!
I've said many times recently that Scream is severely underappreciated as both a slasher movie and a horror movie in general. Scream and its killer, Ghostface, were designed to satirize the slasher genre, but they actually ended up influencing a whole new generation of slashers in the late 90s and early 2000s. Scream basically unintentionally revitalized the genre. What's unique about Ghostface is that it's basically a mantle and it's not really handed down, it's more or less taken by the next person. So essentially, Ghostface can be anybody. And I think that's what's special about him. Also unique to Ghostface is that outside of one movie in particular, and that would be Scream 3, all of the killers were actually 2 people. It was partners, which actually goes a long way into the satire part of slashers and how the killer always seems to be everywhere. It makes sense that that would be a 2-person job. It just makes it more believable. As I said, Ghostface can literally be anyone. Anyone from a movie lover who just takes things too far, or a person with a grudge with a twisted point to prove. Either way, that's why Ghostface gets my number 3 spot. Right off the bat, I have to say why Jason is unique is because it basically takes 3 movies into the franchise before we see him in his most recognizable form. So Jason's legend is basically getting built from the very first movie, even though he's not really in it. And his mom being the killer of the first movie actually adds to his mystique. because it raises a lot of questions, to be honest. It's been said to death that the timeline for Friday the 13th movies is a bit hazy. It's a little difficult to figure out what happens when and how old Jason is. Did he actually drown as a child? But that lack of continuity between the films doesn't necessarily affect Jason's impact. Everything from his iconic music, to his mask, to the machete, to Camp Crystal Lake, they've all become iconic things and they're firmly ingrained in pop culture now. If you mention any of those things, you think of Jason. Also, I found it pretty entertaining how Jason is able to find new ways to kill people in each and every movie. Sometimes in comedic ways, sometimes in the most brutal way possible. Jason is an icon of horror, and the slasher genre just really couldn't exist without him.
I killed him.
You can't kill the boogeyman.
Get in there, come on, Tommy. Now lock the door.
It's probably going to come to no surprise that Michael Myers is my #1 slasher. And I know there were slashers before Michael Myers, and there were many slashers after Michael Myers. But to me, he's the definitive slasher in every sense of the word. Michael's initial appeal was the mystery that surrounded him, because basically he was portrayed as just a kid who snapped one day. I mean, Dr. Loomis goes as far to call him just pure and simply evil. There wasn't no rhyme or reason to it, and that's a really scary thought. I love that aspect of Michael, and it's something that I feel like the sequels and the remakes kind of ruined about him. They spent too much time trying to explain who he is or why he is the way he is. There's just no explanation needed. The unknown is much more scarier, in my opinion. The mask he wears is just so iconic, that emotionless William Shatner mask that they painted white, and how it's the only thing visible in some shots and you just see the white mask peering through the darkness. The way he stalks his victims, it makes the characters and the viewers very uncomfortable. The biggest thing is initially, unlike other slashers, Michael was not about the blood and gore. It was about all the suspense built around him. Michael Myers, to me, is the king of all slashers. The original Halloween is the quintessential slasher movie. Michael Myers' spot is solidified at the top of the list, and I don't think there's honestly anything that could ever change that. So that's my list of my top 5 favorite horror movie slashers. Not a whole lot of surprises probably, but it is what it is. I mean, they are who they are for a reason. Let me know your top 5 slashers in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time right here for another countdown. Thanks for watching. Peace out.